What's poppin', everyone? I'm Venomous Stare, and I have something exceptional for you today, and that is top tier foreigner versus the Prince of Marines. Showtime is in the bottom left here of the map Whirlwind, which is a very large macro map. Spawning close by horizontal positions is the Prince of Marines himself, Maru, formerly of Prime. This guy's widely considered to be the successor to Marine King Prime, one of the only Terrans in the world who can defy the laws of StarCraft 2 and brute force his opponents with micro. Maru is known for his ability to control Marines and Marauders better than everyone else. He's right up there with players like Beyond in terms of exceptional control that really defies what most people think should be able to happen in certain engagements, so he's very fun to watch. Maru is the kind of player who is so special that if you try to copy his style or copy his builds, sometimes you will actually be unsuccessful even though he's a very good player. And usually copying really good players is a great way to get better doing their builds. The thing is Maru is actually so exceptional that whenever you try to copy him, plain and simple, you just don't have the micro to pull it off. So that's kind of why he's called the Prince of Marines. And Marine King Prime was a Terran. Very early on in StarCraft 2, he got runner-up in the second GSL, and he was kind of the first person to pioneer splitting Marines versus Banelings and doing that specific micro act of splitting Marines up into little individual groups. And it sounds really pedestrian now, 6 years later, StarCraft 2 being released in 2010. But back then that was groundbreaking, you know. It was like, oh, the Zerg has Banelings? Well, I guess I need to like tech to tank or make some Marauders. But Marine King showed that no, you can do this splitting micro that works really well against splash damage. And in general, Marine King kind of revolutionized the way that Marine Marauder could be used. And Maru, I think, is a better version of Marine King, a worthy successor. He really shored up weak spots in Marine King's play, and I think his micro is just as good. There's a certain mystique to Marine King that people really liked, where he kind of played ridiculous in a lot of ways. We see Maru going for a very old build that I love, which is CC first into gasless 3 racks, and of course he just now has taken double gas. I absolutely love to see this. This is a really fun build and an easy build to copy, a great macro build for you newbies to try. If you really hate doing the Reaper and you suck at microing it and you don't like to deal with it, this is a really good one because the economy is actually better from CC first than Reaper first. Reaper Expand, it's often called. We see Showtime here in the bottom left, who is a very good German Protoss, has an adept, was patrolling, and his mothership core is patrolling. Notice Showtime, as soon as his observer finishes, he's going to make an observer. This is something new players should try to mimic. This observer is extremely important because getting vision in StarCraft 2 not only determines whether or not you make the correct unit composition, but can also determine whether or not your units are in the correct place. Maru is known for a player that drops a lot, so oftentimes having multiple observers is critical to stopping drops. What I mean by that is someone drops a lot, you might want to have an observer out here to spot for drops, and maybe one out here as well. Another thing you newbie Protosses can do to look for drops is hide pylons out on the map, like down here and up here. Now this, as we see a Marine come out for Maru, of course he's going bio, just now adding his factory, has an Evo chamber. Playing classic Terran, and another thing that I like about Maru, and notice he splits his Marines out here, he plays these styles that are so fun to mimic and play yourself, where oftentimes you're just kind of brazenly playing with a lot of bio and relying on micro to get by. And it's a fun way to play if you want to force yourself to get better at the game, because if you copy these Maru builds and don't have Maru micro, then you'll just get laughed out of the game sometimes. Showtime is checking around at his third, and he's teching into Twilight. Notice he has a Robo support bay, and after he made an Observer, he started to tech into Disruptor. He's getting Warp Prism speed, which I love to see. The Warp Prism is extremely valuable for not only harassing, but we see players like Puck, the American Protoss, will use the Warp Prism heavily within their main army, almost as an aggressive option, and they will micro their other robo units. Now I know a lot of people say, well, of course the Warp Prism, and look how fast it is with speed. They say, well, of course the Warp Prism is used for the Disruptor, but I'm also referring to the Colossi. Oftentimes the Colossus will be picked up, and here we go, Disruptor. Maru losing a little bit. And one thing that you need to be watching this game is how many times Maru loses a lot of units to Disruptors, because I'm going to venture to guess that he's not going to lose a lot. His micro is exceptional, and even though it is very hard, we see again, look at the Showtime's trying to harass, but Maru is defending it very well. He has units ranging out here, he made a turret, and Maru is very good at splitting micros specifically, which is exactly what you need versus Disruptor, and we can see that Warp Prism speed already saving Showtime a lot of money. Showtime is teching into Colossi, he's also getting Thermal Lance. I hope to see him get that Observer speed upgrade too, that one's very valuable. He's getting Blink as well, and a third base, although the Blink is not being chrono boosted. Concussive shells are on the way for Maru, he's dutifully pumping away with his racks. Reactor just finished on his factory, and an Observer died there. Disruptor going out, and see that? It just killed one Marauder. Maru very good at split micro, and he's going to press up into the third here, as we see only one Colossi. Thermal Lance not done, Blink not done. Excellent timing here by Maru, and this is one thing the Korean players do very well, is they will hit these little timings that foreign players don't really hit as frequently, and Maru is going to pick up and fly into the natural. Is observing Maru is always a challenge, because obviously observing the drops is significantly easier than defending them, but I mean, when it's someone like Maru who does plays like this so consistently, it can be hard to keep up with. And he's going to fly over to the third and drop, and because there's Marauders in this drop, pylons and buildings die very quickly. And it looks like this Medi will fall, and it does, so decent pick off there from Showtime. He manages to get one measly medevac, but two more fly into the main, and Photon Overcharge coming down here, but Maru has +1. He focus fires the pylon, now 3 gates are out of commission, so suddenly microing the workers is Showtime here, but he has 3 gates down, so this harass is a little bit irritating because it's suddenly harder to defend. He goes to warp in and the warp gates don't work, and that can cause your micro to mess up and cause you to not only lose units and float money, but it can cause you to kind of lose the foothold of what you're trying to defend if you just need one crucial warp in to really hold that drop off, and those warp gates that you need go offline, then it can be difficult. One thing that you have to realize is Showtime has, what, 6 gates here at this juncture? If 3 of them go down, it really limits his ability to produce, and here we see another drop from the Prince of Marines, and a blink there, and it's a Widow Mine drop. That's interesting. One probe dies, and the drop flies into the third. More mines, and a decent hit there, as I'm pretty sure Maru clicked intentionally and targeted it correctly. The Prince of Marines flies in here. He's going to pick off the pylon, and see Showtime intelligently put pylons at the corner of his base to spot for drops, but exceptional players like Maru won't let that dissuade them. They'll pick them off and then continue to pressure. We can see here this thing is still doing damage, the Widow Mine, and Maru does a little bit of focus fire onto the Colossi, and the medevac does fall, and the Colossi lives, so Showtime not completely getting ripped apart here, but definitely Maru is playing very well. He has a third base, and he's continuing to aggress. He's completely controlling the pace of this game. Showtime has been on the back foot all game. He is down in workers, he is down in supply. Maru flies away from the third, but once again he's left mines everywhere, and this is really irritating to deal with. As you see, Maru is continuing to load things into medevacs and be aggressive. It's so annoying as Protoss for Terrans just to leave mines places, because then you have to get observers in multiple places, and we see Showtime at this point is patrolling his Warp Prism as though it was an observer. He's so desperate to stop drops, and a scan goes down. And a lot of times when your mains get scanned, you can kind of deduce that you're about to get dropped there. 2 Colossi are there, so Maru has to be a little careful, because if we go to upgrades, he is on 1-1. And Showtime doesn't even have +1, so things are going to be very bad when 2-2 finishes. Game-endingly bad, I would venture to say. This Widow Mine is in a decent position, especially if Maru tries to fly away eastward. And he's going to press into the third. Here is Maru, the Prince of Marines, and Widow Mine's burrow. Maru has been aggressing all game. Showtime has just been defending. It's very hard to win a game of StarCraft 2 when you never ever attack. And in the natural here is Maru. He's obliterating probes, and at this point Showtime has fallen badly behind in supply. Maru's even started his 4th base. Maru's 2-2 is about to finish. 1 Colossi is being produced for Showtime. And at this point, Maru has just gone too far ahead, and Showtime GG's. This was a best of 5, so if you want to see these subsequent games, you have to subscribe for more. You can't miss these Maru replays. They're quite simply too good.